All right, our next featured storyteller. This is the one. Story middle name. Please welcome Wendi Story McFarland.
I felt small and insignificant and free, standing at the bottom of the Grand Canyon on the riverbanks of the Colorado River. The canyon walls stared back at me. They felt like all of history and all of time to come, looking down at me. My mortality was everywhere, from the sweltering heat to the frigid waters, to monsoons and flash floods that would carry boulders off the canyon walls, landing next to your tent or even your boat. And then, of course, there's the rapids that demanded my life respect. Pretty much all the water on the Grand Canyon is big, and this was a trip I planned for and trained for. My husband made sure that I was in the captain's seat on plenty of big water trips. There are lots of women that do big water. It just so happens on this trip, I was the only one, and I was alone. We had plenty of passengers to ride with me. It's just that no one wanted to. I'd chosen my dad's 16-foot Idaho riverboat. There were bigger boats, some even had motors, that offered security and excitement. We were about halfway through our trip at mile 93 when we found ourselves scouting the rapid Hermit. Hermit is a giant roller coaster type rapid. It's 10 waves, and on the fifth one, you get a little extra excitement. And it's actually got a little more consequence as well. The fifth wave of Hermit was famous for flipping boats much bigger than my own. Little did I know, as I stood there staring down that rapid, I was actually staring down my life, and that the flood of my past was coming for me. You see, I grew up the oldest of two, daughter to an entrepreneur and a school teacher. My parents came from pretty modest means. One grandfather who poached to feed the family, and the other one who taught his kid an honest hustle. When I was in about the third grade, my grandpa came to visit from Gooding. I remember his green truck pulling up as he called for me and told me to bring my brother and my little red wagon too. We met him at the back of the truck, and he opened up the hatch, and he dropped down the tailgate, and inside was a bed full of potatoes. This is when I learned what the word gleaning a field meant. And he told me the plan. He said, "You guys are gonna sell these to your neighbors." And we did. 10 pounds, $1. I can't imagine who could have possibly turned away 2 little kids and a red wagon full of potatoes. It was the early 1980s, the rise of real estate mogul Donald Trump and motivational speaker Zig Ziglar. My dad was just trying to make his mark in real estate, and so these two men were kind of influential. Zig Ziglar had written 2 books that I remember anyway. I'll See You at the Top and Born to Win. Along with these books came a motivational album, a musical album, in fact. And it played through the speakers of our 1982 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme as I sat in the back. Don't stare up the steps, step up the stairs. There's room at the top. Your goal is right up there. It's time for your journey. Get ready for the climb, 'cause I'm gonna make it. You're gonna make it. We're gonna make it one step at a time. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. I can't even believe I did that. Yeah. The message that I was the captain of my ship, the master of my destiny, was loud and clear in my childhood. By the time I was in high school, my brother and I owned a lawn mowing business that earned more money than my first job out of college. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going to be steering my life towards the top and that I was born to win. Fast forward, I don't know, like 20 years, to the day my husband and I are meeting with a financial planner, naively saying, we want to help send our kids to college. He hands us a most laughable plan for the situation. But it didn't really matter because by the time we got back to the car, I had a plan to make our financial dreams come true. I would leave my job in education and join the family business, real estate. It was 2006 and business was looking good. Oh yeah, you guys see this, huh? You know what's coming. Yeah, so being the planner that I was, I made a great exit plan. Yep. It took a year to actually implement it so that everything was safe and secure. And I even had 2 backup plans. Problem was, by the time I made the leap, I landed right in the recession. Yeah, there was no plan that was going to save me now. I tried desperately to get into the salaried workforce, always coming pretty much runner-up. We started paying our mortgage with our home equity line of credit. Yeah, not a sustainable plan, and I know some of you know about this problem. And it was a horrible feeling, really scary. Gotta be honest, I was terrified we were gonna lose our home and be homeless with 3 little kids. 3 little kids, one of them kept getting sick. Never a fatal diagnosis, but never something easy either. My brother paid me a visit to see if I was okay. And I wasn't. I was drowning. So he tells me, grab onto something you can control. So I get my little hustle together, and I do. I start a little business called Mama Can Do It. Insert Rosie Riveter. Yeah, right? So I start sewing purses, and I start cleaning people's houses, and I even load my lawnmower and my weed eater into our minivan, and I start mowing lawns again. If only that had been the oxygen I needed. I then found myself shortly after, well, actually, I had barely resurfaced after this when I found myself on the riverbanks of the Colorado River, scouting Hermit Rapid. I remember as we stood there, we were watching that 5th wave, trying to figure out our line. And we noticed that she would break on the left and the right or the left. And always there was this nice little passage to make it through safely. But every once in a while, and in no particular identifiable pattern, the wave would open up and she would crash from both sides, destroying the path for safe passage. I didn't actually think too much about it, and I felt confident and fine. I'd already been through some pretty big rapids by the time we were there. We went back to the boats, and I picked my line. My entry was good. 1, 2, 3, 4. I slid into the trough, going into the 5th wave, and the nose of my boat kissed the base of the wave, and I felt the power of the 5th wave pull me in. Just then, my eyes scan up to get the full wave in view, and she turns to complete glass. I hadn't even considered the possibility of an unlucky timing. My boat pulled up the face of the wave, and I knew what was coming next. There was no stopping it. I dug my oars in and said quite a few curse words. The nose of the boat reaches the top of the wave, and the crest crashes on both sides over the bow of the boat, swamping it. My boat, the left side rises up, and the right side curls under me. I slide from the seat to the rubber and then into the water. It was quiet and dark, and time slowed down considerably. I remember scanning my body and saying, "You're okay, I'm okay." And then my head started to burn, and my lungs were starting to catch fire, and I thought, why am I not coming up? And I realized my boat was on top of me. More burning, more fire, and I think, how much longer can I do this? And then I think, oh my God, is this drowning? Is this it? I die right here with my kids watching? And something snapped. And I remembered what I'd forgotten in the pain. And I lifted up my arms and I started crawling the boat. Eventually, I reached the end of my boat. My head popped up free, and I gasped for air. This time I was on fire, but it was because I was extremely angry. I was so pissed at my boat. I hit her and I pushed her as hard as I could, and she started to float away from me, the current catching her a little bit. And I glared at her, thinking about what could have been. But just then, something further downstream caught my eye. It was my posse, and they were coming for me. My eyes went back to my boat, and I heard my friend Scott's voice saying, "A captain never abandons ship." And I looked at my boat. She was naked side up. There was no denying our new reality. This was where we'd landed. This is what it was. And I decided I wanted her. I took my first stroke and then the next, and I swam to her. By the time I reached her and climbed on top, my posse was there. They helped me push my boat to the side of the river. We got her right side up, and I climbed back into the captain's seat. I grabbed the oars and said a little prayer for the calm waters and the people around me. This was my life, entirely mine. Thank you.
That's her. In the Colorado River at the Hermit. Oh boy. Well, I think it was very brave to share that story, partially because there was a section of it where she spoke about a family member gleaning potatoes at the Simplot World Headquarters. I don't know.